Hi everybody, it's Tony here. Welcome back for another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to unlock, load tons of brush strokes and techniques and how to care and clean your flat brushes. So I'm going to be going over quite a few different techniques and ways to use this brush and incorporate them all into a landscape. So this is a full painting tutorial as well. I hope you guys enjoy this one and pick up a lot of great tips. So the first technique I'm going to show you is how to paint a sky with a flat brush and clouds and a sun. I'm going to just get my brush a little bit wet. It's brand new out of the box, so it's a little bit stiff. I'm going to add a little bit of water to the canvas. This is going to help blend the acrylics out of the brush. This is really a great tip, by the way, if you're new to acrylics and wondering how you can lengthen the drying time. Have a little spray bottle, fine misting one, mist your palette as well. It keeps your acrylics wet a lot longer. So once it's a little damp to the touch, we can start coming in with our first color. I'm going to be using Phthalo Blue. I'll have a full list of the colors below this video, as well as the link to the brushes and the size of canvas. With some blue, we're going to start along the top. And the reason why I love this flat brush is because it's 1 inch and you can get a lot of coverage done in a little amount of time. You can use it for blending and nice long sweeping even brush strokes. So I'm just going to pull down across and then bring it down. I'm going to start coming in with some white. I haven't rinsed my brush off, and I'm going to start blending that in where I left off with the blue. And I'm going to bring that up a little bit higher as well. It just helps the paint look a little creamier. Okay, so we'll bring it down a little bit lower. Start adding some more white and continue the blending. A little bit more white again. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow now and more white. I still haven't rinsed my brush out, and I'm going to just blend that in to where I left off with that soft blue. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out now. You just want to tap gently when you rinse your brush out. A little tap on the bottom will help release the paint out of the bristles. And you just want to dry it off carefully like this. Okay, now I'm going to come in and start adding a few clouds. So there's 2 ways with a flat brush to add clouds. You can load the end of your brush. And because my paint is still wet, I'll be picking up a little bit of the blue and creating lighter shades of it. However, I'm going to dry the painting off after I show you that, and then show you how to apply on a dry underpainting. So I'm just going to take the brush and we'll just wiggle it around like this. You can go in little circular shapes like this. If you want your clouds to be puffier, then just push up a little bit higher. You can go on a little bit of an angle. And if you really want to build up texture, just keep adding more white onto the wet paint. And I'm going to dry this off now and show you how it works with painting on a dry surface. Okay, so it's dry now. I'm going to go back in with a clean brush, take a little bit of white, and we'll do the same thing. Go around little circles like this. And then I'm going to show you another way I like to do it. Adding a little bit of white to the corner of the brush, holding it like this, and gently pushing and going up and down. And then softening, turning it this way. Okay, I'll do that again, and I'm going to apply it over top of this one so that my clouds match a little bit more. Okay, again, just using the corner, and it may get a little flat like that. That works as well. So what we're really doing is making the brush work better in a smaller area, so you can make smaller details by turning it this way and using the corner of it. And I'm just going to add a few smaller ones for perspective. Darker and bigger clouds on the top, fading and smaller clouds are really key for making things look closer and farther away. Okay, and then just a little soft sweep like that. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to show you how to paint a sun, a circular shape with a flat brush. So I'm going to take a little bit of pink, a little bit of yellow, and some white. Okay, just loading the brush, and I'm going to add the sun, I think right here. So you just want to place the brush down, twist, and turn. Gonna add a little bit more right in the center, and this is when you can also use the corner of the brush for a little bit more detail. And then finally just a little bit of white inside to make it extra bright. And take just a thin amount here, just thinned out because my brush is a little bit damp. And I'm just going to go around, making the sun glow, adding a few little light, soft, glowing rings. Okay, now we're going to move on to adding some highlights to these clouds, using the corner of my brush and that sort of peachy color that we just added. Just a little hint of this. And just pull the rest out here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is show you how you can paint mountains with a flat brush. I'll rinse my brush out again. I've got a big jug here that you can't see, and then a smaller one here for demonstration, just to show you sometimes how much or how little amount of water is needed. For this step, there's no water needed, and I'm going to paint these mountains. light purple, light blue. We'll mix up the purple, the blue here, a little bit of white. And we're going to come in and add a slant like this on an angle. Now you can kind of create some ridges in your mountains by pulling and kind of zigzagging, and then we'll just pull and sweep down like so off into the distance. I'll take a little bit of white, mix that up again. We'll add a few little peaks just using the belly of the brush. So right here, sometimes I like to turn it over. And if you place your finger partially on the bristles and the ferrule of the flat brush and very lightly wiggle and drag, you can make it act like a palette knife. Now we can add some more in the distance here that are a little softer. Pick up a little bit more white again. You can even dip into that peach. Okay, a little bit of that peach. I want to make a little bit more of that color. Now we can soften with a damp and clean brush, just pulling and blending and sweeping the colors into the background. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is come in with some land and a little waterfall. So I'm going to show you how we can take some green, a little bit of purple. We'll mix those two colors up. And we'll start back here, keeping the brush flat, using just mainly the tip. And then we'll start applying a little bit more width of the brush, sweeping and pulling back. Okay, we'll take a little bit more. Now you can also make it look a little rounded. That will bring some height up to the bank and the land on the either side. I'm going to make this narrower in here by pulling that in. Pull it in, twist over. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more green. A little bit of water. That'll help the paint flow out of my brush. Okay, the next step is showing you how to paint trees. A little bit of water in the brush, still have that paint on there. We're going to just lightly pull up like this, making it a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller to create distance. Do the same thing here, light little press, pull, and flick up, little flick of the wrist like this, and then little baby ones here, again to create that distance. And we'll add a few taller trees. I'm going to take purple and green again. That gives us a nice deep dark color. So we'll add a tree trunk here. We'll make this one a little bit taller than the one on this side's going to be. Okay, so you can just turn your brush like this to make thin lines. Now, loading the brush with the green and the purple, I'm going to tap and dab with the corner of my brush for little branches. And then I'm going to start to apply more pressure and more width of the brush, but still tapping. Okay, so see how you can use more width of the brush to make your branches bigger and thicker and control the width of it for smaller ones. I'm going to make these bottom ones here just a little bit darker. Can add a little shadow, just a little slant there for a shadow at the base. And I'm going to come down here and add a few little rocks, purple. Like that. And then we can add another tree with that purple and green on this side here. Maybe we'll have a little one right here, a little bit smaller. I like the mountains. I don't want to, unfortunately I did have to cover that one up, but this video is about learning brush strokes and how to use a flat brush. So we're going to just tap again. You can use the corner of your brush, or you can also use the full width and kind of crisscross like that. You can also sweep. There's so many ways. There's so many different types of trees. So play around with your brush and experiment in all the different ways you can use it to get different looks to your trees and branches. Okay, I'm going to continue here with more green and purple. Take a little bit of water, help blend that. Make it a little narrower down here, almost a triangle shape. And I'm going to pull in to my blue now and add a little bit of water. And I'm going to just blend this in. I'm blending it in with the green. And we'll get a really pretty color this way. A little bit of water again. And I'm going to take a little bit of white in with that blue now. And I'm going to start adding it in here or up here. Let's take a little bit of white, mix that in, and just start to wiggle, swirl. Flat brush is so versatile. You can make swirly rounded lines with it. Doesn't all have to be straight, flat lines and angles. Now, loading it up with some more white, mixing that in. I'm going to show you how to make this go from looking flat to flowing little waterfalls here. So we're just going to line up right there, pull and drop, pull and drop. I'm going to add just a little bit of water to my brush, thin that paint out. Little pressure. Wiggle out the bottom, and we'll pull and drop again, taking a little bit more white on the tip of the brush, and then we're just going to have it come down and drop into this riverbed. I'm going to take just a little bit more on the corner there and bring another little bit right down there. Then I'm going to tap with the bottom of my brush for a little bit of a splash. You can also go around in little circles like this, or push with and tap with the corner of the brush. Let's add a little bit more. Slide into the white to load it. Add a few little wiggles and squiggles here. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. And I'm just going to wiggle like this with a brush over that light olive green shade that we made. We'll take a little bit more yellow, mix that in with the white, and we're going to add some highlights, pulling up and over. Let's be a little bit more generous with the yellow. And I'm going to add a little path. I'll show you how to add a path. Let's mix some purple, pink, and yellow. A little bit of white, and there we have brown, one shade of brown. Okay, we'll just load our little brush up, and maybe we have a little path. We'll use the corner of the brush so it's smaller, a path that leads back there, and then I'm going to start to wiggle and use more width of my brush. Go back and reload, and there's like a little hill here, so why don't we add a few little stairs. And then another little path down here that takes us up to those stairs. Now they're not very visible yet, right? So let's just take a little bit of white, yellow, and pink. And we'll start adding some highlights here. Can add a little bit of this brown color over some of the rocks, edge of the water. I'm going to rinse this out now. Now this has had a little bit of time to dry, so I'm going to come back in with some green. Actually, picked up a little bit of blue there. Maybe that'll look pretty. And I'm going to tap a little bit more. To make some of it darker. So see all the shading you can do and highlights with the flat brush as well. A little bit of green and blue in here, and we'll create a little bit more depth. I love the sap green with the phthalo blue together. Gently pull in towards the center. That will shade it a little bit more as well. Now I'm going to come in and add some highlights here. White, yellow, and green. I'm going to use the corner of my brush. And we'll add a little bit here too. Partially going over those branches. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to add some grass. We're going to take the liner brush, or the flat brush, and make it act like a liner brush, and with green and blue, and we'll just start pulling in some lines like this. You can make them straight up and down if you want, or have a little curve to them like this. Now you can make them a little thicker if you want. They could be plants with thicker stalks and stems and leaves. Just added a little bit of that purple in there. I think that looks kind of pretty. Okay, I'm going to take some white now. Mix that in with that clay color again. And for back here, I'm going to add a little bit of light to this path, making it stand out. Pull and slide for those steps. Look at how simplified it is with using a flat brush to make steps and stairs. Okay, now with some green and yellow, a little bit of white. Just gonna add a little bit more yellow. I'm gonna add a few little highlights to the grass down here. Okay, so loading the end of the brush. I'm just gonna place my pinky here to help steady my hand. So they kind of look like leaves too. I like that. But for thinner blades of grass, less pressure. When you push, you're applying pressure, right? You just want to barely touch it and pull. So I'm going to add a few more here. Blue and green. A little bit of white. This will give us a minty green color. So I'm bringing these over part of the path. That puts this more in the foreground. And I'm leaving the bottom dark for shadows. Going to build up a little bit more saturation with straight yellow. And we're just going to apply that over. The areas that we want it to be nice and warm. It brings out the warmth in the green. So we have a nice balance of cool and warm greens. Okay, I'm going to add another highlight to our stairs. A little bit of yellow in there with the white. Pull, pull. And then we'll come in with, I need a little bit more purple. Some green and some purple to make that nice dark color again. Load the bottom of the brush, pull in between those stairs. And we'll add a fence now. So we're going to turn our brush straight up and down, and we'll start with one post there. And then we have the stairs coming up here. We'll continue with our little fence. They're going to be smaller and closer together. So then you just use less of the brush and just tap and dab. Okay, let's add a little bit of white, maybe a little purple in there, and we'll add a highlight. So we're gonna load the end of our brush and we'll add this to one side. You can even just tap and then just kind of trail off like that and disappear. Okay, I'm going to add a board that connects them, two, just like that. A little bit of white, and even turn the brush over like that. Okay, so we've got a little fence there. Now the only thing missing are flowers. So I'm gonna take some pink, a little bit of purple, and I'm gonna, on the corner of my brush, I'm gonna add some flowers here. Tap and dab for just little blobs. Those blobs will look like pretty flowers. We'll have a few more coming down here. Maybe a little bit more following along our path. And a few down here. I'm gonna wash my brush out and then add some white. Okay, clean brush. We'll take some white, swirl it around into that pink, and we'll start just dabbing over that wet paint and create some pretty little highlights here. Lighter shades. We have the darker base and the lighter highlights now. Okay, we'll just keep going with this. What a pretty little scene. And can you believe that we created this all just with one flat brush? But see what happens when you don't over blend your paint? This way you get so many different shades all at once. Got a little bit of purple there. Maybe we can add a few little purple ones. With a clean brush, I'm going to take just a little bit of the white on the end of my brush and I'm going to wiggle in some more movement and light in the water. And going around with the corner of my brush, just like this, gentle push, fluffing up that spray. Let a little something there as well. Fade over this with a little bit of that white, and it just puts that back in the distance. Looks farther away. Okay, well, I hope you guys learned a lot today. This entire painting with a flat brush, all the different techniques and ways to use it, how to clean it right away is the main thing. You don't want your brushes sitting in water or paint. And then just a gentle little dry. Store it upright or in the box that it comes with. See you guys all very soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.